Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. And I have to tell you, I'm really looking forward to this interview tonight because I get very inspired when I meet people who are really on a mission. And I would say many of the people who have been on this program over the last year, I think, are, committed to something and they're making an impact. But when I read about Ellen Canner, it was like, she's at a level of she wants to spread the message, not only spread the message of healthy eating, of plant-based diet, of vegan diet, but of just a way of life. And she is all over the place. She's writing many, many stories for newspapers all over, syndicated newspapers. She's speaking at events everywhere. I mean, every day it seems like I see she's going to be here, she's going to be there. It's like amazing. Tonight, she's about to see her in her kitchen. Ellen, I'm thrilled to have you on the program. And she's doing a class tonight where she shows people how to cook with lots of healthy recipes. She's written books, actually an award-winning book. We're going to talk about that. And like I said at the beginning, I feel very, very inspired by her. And I know that you will too. So Ellen, great to have you on our program. And I met you, was like a few years ago. And where were you, of course? And I went with some friends. You were at it was a plant and seed festival, right?
Right.
Yeah. So your journey started in a very interesting way. I don't think I mentioned that I mentioned you have a lot of stories that you've written, but your journey really started as a professional. You're a journalist and you were covering something to do with vegetables and vegetarianism, right? And then what happened?
I was, and I had been vegetarian and then vegan, but like you, I've been doing this for a long time. And back then, vegan was nothing the world was interested in hearing about. So, that was just sort of something I did for myself. I really think it's one of the great value adds. You can feed yourself well, you can do great things for the planet. And I think it does take you on a healing path too. But that was just me. And then the Miami Herald was trying to find a new food writer, a new vegetarian or vegan food writer. And I said, might you consider me? And they didn't even know. I mean, I had been a closeted vegan.
Oh.
And so I sort of came on as a trial period, and I had been contributing editor for a literary magazine. I had done all kinds of features for different publications, but somehow, sometimes timing is everything. It seemed like this hit with people, and it's so powerful. We all eat. I say food is a great connector that way. So if I could help people eat stuff that's delicious, point them to what seasonality is, because we in Miami don't always know. That just seemed to be a great opportunity and a great pleasure for me as well.
So you're really able to live what you believe through your work, but also help others along the way. So I'm just wondering, and I want to get this question or this answer right, out of the way so we can, continue. A lot of people ask, and I was even questioning myself, but then I looked it up. What is the difference between being a vegan and a plant-based diet?
I really don't care.
Oh, good.
I think it is a naming thing.
Yeah.
Plant-based, I think means you're eating produce, you're eating vegetables. Vegan does seem to imply more of a lifestyle commitment. But as far as I'm concerned, call it Fred, do yourself some good, don't struggle.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I used to sit in the lounge when I worked at WLRN, and we had the lounge, our little kitchen, and I was not eating meat or anything like that. And I would see people, and a lot of people, more than men, would be eating like meat. They'd eat stuff from, like, I hate to say it, but Burger King or whatever, sitting there eating lunch. And then over time, I started to notice a change. And I'd say, look at you, you're eating to somebody like you're eating just a salad and maybe something little on the side. And they often say, they would say, oh, my doctor told me, my cholesterol's high. I need to make a change. But I did start to see it in where we ate at the station over the years. Oh, and then the head of the station, he brought in his own Vegematic. And so people could have juice, make juice, vegetable juice, or I guess, and every day it would be in there. I don't know. I don't remember who supplied the vegetables or the fruit, but then little by little, I saw a change. So I would think that from those years, it's much more than a change now, right? It's becoming a way of life for a lot of people. Let's call it plant-based. Yeah.
It is. And the Vegematics are great, but the abundance of really good commercial vegan products on the market now, I never imagined it was going to be possible. I went vegan so far back that if you imagine the shelf of plant-based milks in your dairy section, now erase them. All there was boxed soy milk, and it was brown. And I would pour some in my coffee, and it wouldn't mix with the coffee. It would just sort of sit there and be sad, and I would be sad too. But I knew, hey, it's plant-based, it's kind of good, yay. So things have gotten so much easier, so much more delicious. It just makes it so much easier.
So it's really all about choices. So if a person is, maybe trying to embark on this path, they should, really kind of study things at the store. Like you say, you can go into a regular supermarket today. And like you said, I don't even know how they have the room anymore, but they managed to have the room for all of these plant-based foods. Let me ask you something though. Are some healthier than others? Like, are there, let's say cheese, because to me, some of the cheese is not always so good. It doesn't taste so tasty to me or good. But then someone will say to me, oh, you got to try this cheese or this yogurt, again, plant-based, not made from dairy. Would you say you have to try them to find the right ones or ones that are healthier?
Absolutely. In terms of flavor, in terms of what ingredients they have. Some are super processed, but when you have a friend who says, oh my goodness, this vegan cheese is so good, most likely it's made the way dairy cheese is. It's cultured. It's not just, forgive me, like plastic.
Exactly.
It's a real food. And it's made traditionally. It's just made with a slightly different ingredient. I think
so. You're saying that, it is, there are a lot of them that are actually healthy. They're not like, oh, I'm going to eat something because I don't want to eat dairy, but it's not really very healthy. You're saying there's been a shift. A lot of things are shifting like that, more, is there just more, people are more conscious in the world. We hear about all the bad things going on in the world, but this is one of the things that are good. People are changing, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And this is one thing everyone is capable of changing. This is something you do for yourself. Or, maybe you do it because you do get a scary talk from your doctor. Or maybe you do it because you love animals. I do. Or maybe you do it because you love the environment, which is really been on the ropes lately. This is something you can do that impacts all of that in a good way. And you can eat something delicious too, so why not?
Well, why don't we at this point show them some things that are delicious, some of the some pictures of some amazing dishes that you have made. And we've got a selection right now, and you can share with us what they are. Oh, here's your book. This was your award-winning book.
Yes.
Say something about that, and then we'll move on to the foods.
Okay. I've been Huffington Post Meatless Monday blogger for a number of years. And, I had this sort of format in my head. I'm going to tell you something that's going on in the world. Here's something you can do about it. And here's a recipe that kind of draws on that. So I made it like a funnel. This is something you can do and eat that's going to impact all that other stuff. And as fun as that was, I'm sure as a journalist, a lot of maybe what is resonant for you doesn't make the cut in terms of time or word count or anything. Feeding the Huffington Post was everything I had to leave off the page for Huffington Post.
It's actually a very spiritual book, though, too, isn't it? So it kind of connects spirituality to not eating meat. Isn't that the case?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the
The
subtitle is Nathan What to Eat for Dinner.
Yeah.
I'm always happy when I've got vegetables with me.
They're your friends, aren't they? Look at that. And they don't care. They don't care if you eat them, right? No, they don't. Okay. They might. Yeah.
A simple lentil salad. And speaking of lentils, tomorrow, the 10th, is World Pulses Day, a celebration of dried beans. So all you need are some lentils or dried beans. And I did a little vinaigrette, and I always like to work in a little extra greens. So I chopped up some spinach. So easy, so good. I don't like people to struggle.
So you make it easy, all your recipes, your cookbooks, and oh my goodness. So there are things that are really delicious, right?
Right.
They're all delicious, but this is like, yeah, this would be my weakness right there. What?
Apple and ginger.
Uh-huh. Beautiful.
Udon noodles with shiitake. The great thing about plant-based food is there's something you already eat that you already like that you can do plant-based, like this. Maybe in a restaurant it would have chicken in it. You don't really need it, especially with mushrooms, because they're so chewy and umami. That's that rich, savory flavor at the back of the throat.
So what is in that one? You said the mushrooms and, oh, look at the, yeah, let's go back to that one. The mushrooms, I see greens in there. I see the noodles.
Garlic. It was pretty simple, really. A lot of the dishes that become the recipes you will see on the page, I have a whole bunch in this issue of Edibles South Florida, start out basically as something I throw together for dinner, and I think that's a keeper. And I just sort of have to transcribe it so I know what the proportions are. Maybe I'll find an easier way for people to do things. But yeah, it's dinner. It's what we eat.
And you don't have to be struggling all day or cooking all day, because like I could tell. I know I don't have time, but I know you especially don't have time with all that you do. Speaking, writing, cooking classes. I mean, okay, look at this beautiful salad. Look at this.
Super easy. This was something I did for Mediterranean Diet Month. It's roasted vegetables, it's beans, it's olives and artichokes and pretty little watermelon radishes, which I think just sort of make everything look a little glam. It's very easy, and you don't have to do it all at once. I had made the beans, I roasted the vegetables while I was putting the platter together, and it was just sort of bing, bam, boom. I don't want people to struggle.
Yeah, and you know what, Ellen, I always feel if people struggle and they have to work too hard on, things in terms of, their lifestyle, they're not going to continue it. Even exercise. I mean, some people can be heavily into exercise, but a lot of people, if it's not, if it can't fit into their schedule, that they stop. So you have to kind of make it easy enough to fit into your life.
Yeah, and also like invest in yourself some. I mean, what's more important to you? Here are lentils again. I didn't realize I had two of them, but that's so many. But this time it's got more of a sweet spin. I have apples in there and walnuts, my favorite nut.
Walnuts, yeah. Beautiful selection of food. Look, I mean, I think that anybody that's watching this has to be getting hungry. I mean, it's like amazing.
So we have pasta, we have tacos with greens and chilies and tomatoes. Super easy. If you, I take a bunch of greens and just give them the lightest saute, and they wilt right down. So you don't really have to, spend a lot of time on the stove. This was really fast. That is a panzanella. That's an Italian bread salad with peppers and tomatoes and olives and greens and basil. Easy. Okay, everyone loves potatoes. In fact, my class tonight is on root vegetables.
Oh, is it? I love root vegetables. Yeah.
And that's patatas bravas, like the little plate for Spanish food everyone likes best, roasted potatoes with tomato sauce. And that was just, that's food porn to me in its purest form. That was the first season strawberries here.
The beautiful strawberry. Look at that. I get the feeling, Ellen, you're always in search of a new recipe, huh? You don't run out of new recipes.
People say, like, what do you, how do you know what to cook for dinner? How do you, I'm inspired by nature. I'm inspired by what's in season. So that's always where I start.
And I love what you were talking about earlier, just the connection to nature, and that the more people do go plant-based, how it is really can help the planet, in terms of just maybe reversing a lot of the problems, the major problems. So maybe you could say a few words about that.
In Feeding the Hungry Ghost, I have 10 or 12 what I call gentle nudges. And they're little ways to get you to connect a little more with what you eat, how you feel, what, how the planet is. And one of the simple things I suggest is growing a little of what you eat, even if it's just a pot of cilantro by the windowsill. It creates a real connection. And I've got a raised bed garden in my backyard. I am not a farmer, but I love to watch nature do what it does. And it doesn't take a lot of help from me. It's very inspiring.
You have to come visit the Brahma Kumaris Miami Center, because we have a pretty big garden, an organic garden, and it feeds a lot of people. I mean, people come by and you can just take some lettuce or there's all kinds of things in this beautiful garden. And I don't have a garden now, but I have in my past had organic gardens. I lived out west, and there's nothing like that feeling, to me, what I used to love was not have my shoes on and walk out with my feet, into the dirt, and this connection to nature, this connection. And do you think in a way that's, again, because you're so into soulful eating, that it does really energize and kind of heal the soul, being with nature, having a garden, or eating these kinds of vegetables. And I feel like, though there are people that still feel, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit about, there are people that say, yeah, their doctor told them to eat vegetables, but there are other people that have said to me, my doctor said I need protein, I got to have a steak. I sat with some people recently, and they said that they were vegetarians. In fact, I think the husband was a vegan. And then he said, well, the doctor said I needed some proteins. And I don't buy that, but okay. What do you say to people like that?
It's interesting. When people think of protein, they think of animal. Doesn't have to be. There are some terrific sources of plant protein.
Yeah.
My favorite is beans, dried beans. We saw it in lentil salads. In fact, I have a pot of nice creamy beans with garlic and sage for dinner tomorrow night, because I want to celebrate World Pulses Day. Super high in protein, very low environmental impact, low water, low carbon, high yield. Nuts, wonderful fat. You feel kind of indulgent, and those are high in fiber too. So many foods are, even broccoli has a trace amount of protein. People have gotten very obsessed with, okay, protein means animal, means I have to eat a lot of it. I think the hardest thing about changing your diet, whatever the change is, isn't going plant-based or isn't going low sodium or whatever it is you need to pursue. It's the mind shift. I mean, we were just like, okay, I have to look at a menu a little differently. I have to look at what I am getting at the store a little differently. And it's not less. In the case of plant-based, it's so much more. It's more vegetables and opportunities and beans and whole grains than you ever had on your plate before. It's more color, more flavor, more fun.
You know what? Just to listen to you is, it just makes, makes one feel so good, and, helps to think, okay, I can change, I can do more. So do you find that, like, when you do all these programs that you do, cooking classes and talks and articles, do you, again, I mean, we talked about it earlier, but do you really see like a big shift that more and more people are moving in that direction? And are they also, do they tend to be younger? Because I noticed that a lot of the Gen X's are more vegetarian or more vegan. And look at all these restaurants, like drive around Miami and it's like vegan here, vegan there. It wasn't like that a few years ago.
No, it was not. And that's one of the reasons I learned to cook, because, it was that or starve.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I would say it's pretty much across the age spectrum.
Mhm. Good, good.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about something we've mentioned, but kind of maybe speak to this, is the mindful eating. That, people talk about mindfulness, meditation, and, you're on a site now, the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center. We actually have centers all over the world, where people meditate, and people are vegans or vegetarians, centers everywhere. I think we have thousands of centers. And, just this consciousness, this mindful eating that has to do with the soul and the spirit, when you start to shift how you eat and how you look at life.
I had actually done a bunch of mindful eating workshops before the pandemic, and I miss doing them. Being mindful is being present, and we eat at least once a day. We are fortunate enough that way. So here is an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to bring all your senses and focus to the table. And, maybe you're hungry and you want to dive right in. Give it a moment. What does that first taste? What is that for you? What are you feeling? I think a lot of times we focus on flavor, and we should. But we should also focus, mouthfeel is a real driver. Like, how is that in the mouth? Is it crispy, which is the foodie word that will sell almost anything, so it's crispy. Is it creamy?
Crunchy.
I can tease it out. What flavors am I getting? What associations does this bring up for me? It takes a minute. It's very, very powerful. And I say there are, gosh, it's been a while since I taught this, 4 magics of mindful eating. You mentioned nature. Connecting with nature, even for a couple minutes a day, is known to decrease stress, lower your blood pressure. And I realize not everyone has that opportunity to get out with your toes in the dirt, but you can bring nature in. And I think it still has the same impact.
It does, doesn't it? Just bringing this into your life and bringing a thoughtfulness and quiet, not just eating it so quickly and it's all gone, but just kind of savoring the moment. And it is, would you call it a meditation? It can be a meditation when you eat.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say that there are days when I'm on deadline and I put down something to eat and I'm still working at my keyboard, and I look later and the plate is empty, and I know it wasn't my dog. I know I somehow ate it, but I don't remember it. That is not mindfulness.
Yeah, right. But you're aware. Do you have a meditation practice? I wasn't sure. Or maybe your cooking and all the work you do is your part of your practice, is your practice.
Part of it. I find cooking very meditative, but I also know myself well enough that sometimes I need to get out of the kitchen. I need to just, as you say, find that moment of stillness, find that quiet. So I do both. Beautiful,
beautiful. I think again, this, mindful eating and the plant-based diet and, and that other level of the going vegan really is kind of pointing, getting closer to this place where, I'm just thinking that if more people live like this, maybe things could really, really change quickly, not just in our community, but in the world,
I
you
would
know?
like so. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes I look at the news and I think people are so angry. I think
Yeah.
what you eat, I mean, you're feeding yourself. What are you feeding yourself?
Mm. So it does
Maybe
have an effect on your mind and and on this, I mean, yeah, on your thoughts.
so if
Yeah.
you could soften that a little and be
Mm.
funny at the same time.
Mm. I do want to bring up something, and we kind of mentioned it before we go. I think we have a little bit more time, but I know a big part of being a vegan and the plant-based too has to do with the inhumanity to animals. And I have talked with many people who said that's why they went vegan. So maybe you could speak to that and maybe explain a couple of things that I'd like to know. Yeah,
The
in
way
relation to that. Yeah.
the way we the way the food system works,
Yeah.
not pretty. And there's a reason there's a veil over it, because I think if people did know more about how their food came to them, you can't unsee that. And it is very painful and powerful. You wouldn't want that for your pet. You certainly wouldn't want it for any sentient being. I know many of my vegan colleagues have seen like PETA videos that show this trauma, that this terrible
Mm.
way we get our food, and that was the incentive for them. And you can't, as I say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's gonna make you want to change. I like to
Yeah.
encourage. I would rather say, here, taste this. This,
Rather than scare people, because
yeah,
scaring people is not a pretty thing either, is it? But let me ask you, are there farms that are humane? I mean, I always see, especially maybe in stores like Whole Foods or whatever, or wherever, because even the main markets now, like they're raised in like natural environments. And so are there farms to look for or labels on any kind of food that you can maybe feel that the animals are treated well, or
I
we're
think
not? Yeah.
so. And I would have to say I'm not an expert in that field.
Right.
It's just easier for me to move past that.
Past that. Yeah. Yeah.
Keep in mind, even if they are humanely raised, it still does not end well for them.
No, I'm not talking about eating the meat. I'm talking about, say, like the dairy. Are there farms that maybe they're grazed and they're not hurt, the animals, right? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there are. I would
There
have
are.
to. Most of them are not in the United States.
They're not. Interesting. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Or maybe they're small farms, right? Where that happens, yeah. Well, I just think all of this more increased awareness, and just the our own, conscience and our own consciousness about how we eat, to me, is what I'm getting from you. And how, like I started out at the beginning, that this is something that really does change lives, people starting to eat differently. Give me an idea of, if a person is interested and they do want to change, but it doesn't always happen in one time. What do you recommend for people maybe that want to start this process of changing how they eat?
Well, you're right. If you are watching, you are already on a healing path. So I think you're going to find it is not the obstacle you think it might be. Set yourself up to succeed. Make sure you've got good nourishing food for you in your house.
Mhm.
Maybe buy yourself something pretty. Maybe you wanted a rice pot all these years. It's not a big investment. For me, my favorite splurge is going to the farmer's market. Get out and meet your farmer. Get out and see what's growing. I also am a big believer in the rule of one. So if you do this one thing, if you come home with an Instant Pot, if you come home with a basket of fresh produce, if you have a meatless meal, where normally you'd have a burger,
Right.
that that one that one change leads to more positive change. I really believe that. I know that change is hard. I'm not going to deny that, but
Yeah.
every positive change leads to another.
I love it. I love hearing that. And that even is a spiritual path. You can't, I mean, you could come in and say, okay, I'm going to change my whole life. You start meditating, you start studying, spirituality. And you realize, I realizing, oh my God, this is a process. It takes a long time before you really have to, it's kind of step by step. For some people, maybe it happens 1 second, but for most people, change is just gradual, right? And then all of a sudden your life is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when you think about it, because we go to India a lot, the Brahma Kumaris to meditate in our ashram in Mount Abu, India. And, you look and you say, like, everything is basically plant-based, and that's what they eat, right? I mean, all over the world in countries, right? It's lentils, it's, beans, it's potatoes, and the food is absolutely delicious. And the cooks actually cook in a state of meditation. The ones they put in the kitchen are meditators, serious meditators. And so the food that you eat always feels to me very fulfilling, filling and fulfilling. Like I just come away and I'm not hungry.
Food. It's made intentionally. It is made with care. And like I say, you're feeding yourself. You're putting this in you. It's the most intimate thing we do.
Yeah, and it's and everybody has to eat, right? And then I'm going to let you go because you've been just so wonderful and taking your time on a day when I know you're really busy. But I want to ask one more question. That's family, husbands. I know you're married. I think you said that he's not a vegetarian, or he's maybe part. And my late husband wasn't, but yet little by little he ate more. He would eat what I would cook. And my daughter too, who's grown, but she's kind of not vegetarian, but she's very close, very into healthy eating and everything. So what do we do with family members? We get into this and they're like saying, but I still want what I want, How do you handle that? And how do you tell people how to handle that?
I think you need two things. I
Okay.
think your own conviction and say, this is something that is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do for my husband, who mostly eats vegan, certainly
he eats your incredible food, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's when I say good food is good food. So it's not like I'm taking anything away from him. I'd say first, I would just make something real big that we could share. And then if you wanted something else, you could have it. But if someone says, no, you can be vegan, I think it's wrong. And I don't, and notice I cross my arms because it's this whole, I'm not playing your game. Say, okay, this is something that's important to me. How are we going to work this out? Throw it back at them.
Beautiful. Because you can't change anyone but yourself, right? And if that other person in your life or other people in your life, that they don't want to, go on the path with you, that's fine. That's fine. So my last question is, if people want to read more and learn more from you, where should they go?
www.soulfulvegan.com or on Instagram. I think it's just my name, Ellen Canner.
We're all over the place. So Ellen Canner, ELLEN KANNER, the Soulful Chef, right?
Soulful Vegan Writer.
Vegan, right? Writer, chef. Like I said at the beginning, the person who's really, really on a mission to help the world and help create change.
Well, so is Maris. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's why, I always feel so connected with people like you, because we're and so many people in different ways are all on some kind of a path, helping people, doing good in the world. And our feeling is that the more that people do get on that bandwagon and say, what can I do to serve the world, whatever it is, things will change. It's great to have you, Ellen. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Come back and visit. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.